Now we are going to discuss the 1987 Constitution. So these are the parts of the 1987 Constitution. We have 18 articles all in all, which are labeled, no, in the presentation. We have 18 excluding yung preamble, and these articles include the national territory, the Declaration of Principles and State Policies, the Bill of Rights, citizenship, suffrage, legislative department, executive department, judicial department, constitutional commission, local government, accountability of public officers, the national economy and patrimony, social justice and human rights, education, science and technology, arts, culture and sports, the family, general provisions, amendments or revisions, and transitory provisions of the Constitution. Okay, I would like to stress out that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It is the paramount law of the land. That is why we have the principle of the supremacy of the Constitution. The principle of the supremacy of the Constitution states that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and all laws must bow down to the mandates of the Constitution. Ibig sabihin, ang Constitution ang pinakamataas na in the levels of law, no, ang Constitution ang pinakamataas sa kanila. Lahat ng mga batas na gagawin ng ating legislative department, lahat ng mga batas and rules of the state must be in accordance with the Constitution. If the Congress creates a law which is not in accordance with the Constitution, it is unconstitutional. No, it is not in accordance with the Constitution. Pwede siyang ma-invalidate, pwede siyang maging void, pwede siyang hindi ipatupad, no, upon declaration of its unconstitutionality. Hindi siya magiging batas, no, hindi siya ipapatupad na batas dahil yun na nga, hindi siya in accordance sa Constitution. Wala siya nag-comply sa kung anong sinasabi ng Constitution. No, say for example, our law on abortion, no, kasi ang isa sa Declaration of Principles and State Policies ng ating Constitution that the state protects the life of the mother as that of the unborn. So may nagsasabing mga experts na yung law on abortion, if we are to pass or if we are to legalize abortion, it would be in contravention of the Constitution. Kasi ang Constitution sinasabi niya na kailangan protektahan yung mother, kailangan protektahan yung bata sa loob ng sinapupunan, no, and kung i-allow natin na ma-legalize yung abortion, parang sinasalungat natin yung sinasabi ng Constitution, no? But we will thoroughly discuss that when we reach that article, but that is an example, no, of the supremacy of the Constitution. If dili magtugma ang Constitution and the Republic Act, for example, the Constitution ang masusunod. So mai-invalidate yung Republic Act. Now, the first portion of the Constitution is the preamble. Ang preamble, I want you to memorize the preamble, and then you take a video of yourself parang ano nyo, i-recite nyo yung preamble. Okay? So, the preamble is not part of yung mga laws of the Constitution. It is mere parang preliminary or introduction ng Constitution, no? But the preamble's function is, number one, to introduce the supreme law of the land. No? It is an introduction of the Constitution. Second is, the preamble expounds the rationale behind the enactment of the Constitution. Siniset ng preamble kung ano talaga yung purpose ng ating Constitution at kung anong purpose ng mga nasa loob ng Constitution natin. Third is, it is to single out the purposes to be achieved by the Constitution, no, para ma-set doon kung ano yung goal ng ating Constitution, and to specify the framers of the Constitution. Sino ba talaga ang gumawa ng Constitution natin? And lastly, it is to serve as a frame or reference for its interpretation, because as I've said, if we go back to our discussion on the yung branches of the government, no, in case that there is vagueness in the law, the next step is to interpret the law. If the law is not vague, if it is clear, there's no need for interpretation. So just in case, no, that there is vagueness not only in the Constitution but the contents, no, of the Constitution, magiging basehan kasi sa pag-interpret ng mga provisions ng Constitution kung ano ba ang purpose ng framers of the Constitution, ano ba ang purpose ng provision na yan ng Constitution. So it is important to establish the intention, no. It is important to establish the intention of the framers of the Constitution on the specific provisions of the Constitution, no. Kasi parang sasabihin natin, bakit ba ginawa tong Article 1? Bakit ba ginawa itong Article 2? Ano bang purpose nito? So if may hindi klaro sa article na yan, babalikan natin yung kung ano ba talaga, bakit ba ginawa yan ng mga authors of the Constitution. Take note that the Constitution is not an essential part of the Constitution. Pwedeng tanggalin yung preamble, pwedeng tanggalin yung preamble. It's not an essential part of the Constitution because it does not confer any powers to the government. Wala siyang ine-establish na power, wala siyang ine-establish na right, no. It is a mere reference to the function or to the intentions of the Constitution. So we have here the preamble. The preamble reads, "We, the sovereign Filipino people." Ibig sabihin, ang framers o ang nagsasalita, ang gumawa ng Constitution is yung Filipino people, hindi yung mga sumulat, because ang tenor ng ating Constitution is yung Pilipino, no. Pilipino ang gumawa, no, and the Filipino people. Then we have here imploring the aid of Almighty God. Pinapakita dito yung pagiging religious nating mga Pilipino, that in everything that we do, we include God in our decisions. Dito, ito yung impluwensya, no, ng Espanya sa atin. in order to build a just and humane society. Ito na yung mga purposes natin. Just and humane society. May isang gobyerno na nag-embody ng ideals and aspirations ng mga tao, promote the common good. The intention is basically inclined to the welfare of the people, sa ikabubuti ng nakararami, conserve and develop our patrimony, and secure to ourselves and our posterity the blessings of independence and democracy, because the Philippines is a democratic state under the rule of law and a regime of truth, justice, freedom, love, equality, and peace. Do ordain and promulgate this Constitution. So that is our 1987 Constitution. Next. Article 1 is the national territory. This is very interesting because ito talaga ang pinakaunang provision ng Constitution, no? The Article 1 sets what is included in the in the territory of the Philippines. Hanggang saan ang teritoryo ng Pilipinas? Bakit anong importance ng ating Article 1? Ang Article 1 ng Constitution, kailangan nating i-identify kung hanggang saan yung boundaries ng state, no? Because if we go back to the definition of the state, diba, it is a state na may group of people with a government and may specific territory. Tapos may independence siya from foreign control. So yung state, no, the Philippines as a state, may certain territorial limit siya. And yung mga we need to identify hanggang saan ang territory natin for us to know hanggang saan yung batas natin magiging applicable. No, because if it's not our territory anymore, we do not have jurisdiction and our laws do not apply generally. Okay, so Article 1 states that the national territory comprises the Philippine archipelago with all the islands and waters embraced therein. Ibig sabihin, ang nakapaloob sa teritoryo ng Pilipinas ay yung Philippine archipelago. So paano natin ma-identify ang Philippine archipelago? I have here a map of the Philippines. No, so that is the map of the Philippines. Hanggang saan ba dyan yung teritoryo ng Pilipinas? Ang national territory natin is based in the archipelagic doctrine or archipelago doctrine that draws straight baselines joining the outermost islands of the archipelago. So going back, paano natin ma-identify on what is included in the archipelago? So by definition, ang archipelago is an island surrounded by bodies of water. For states or for countries with yung isang buong island lang siya, walang problema, madaling i-identify yun. How about sa Pilipinas na we have more than 7,000 islands na magkakahiwalay. So hanggang saan ang extent doon ng jurisdiction ng Philippines? So if we are not to apply the archipelagic doctrine, kung dun lang tayo sa baseline, ang mangyayari is from the lowest watermark dito sa shore, no? Diyan tayo kasi magsisimula kung saan ang territory natin sa dagat. Kung dito lang sa sa Philippines, sa lupa alone, walang problema. So yan siya, yung nakapaloob dyan is already considered as part of the Philippines, yung Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Ngayon, paano ngayon yung sa body of water? Kasi dito walang problema, all the islands and waters embraced therein, lahat ng mga bodies of water, mga fresh water sa loob, inland, kasama na yun sa teritoryo natin. But paano ngayon paano ngayon yung sa dagat, hanggang saan ang extent natin? So ang mangyayari ngayon, dati kasi ang pag-measure kung hanggang saan ang extent ng teritoryo ng isang archipelago is from the pinaka mababaw na level ng tubig palabas, no? Palabas pag ganon. So may mga certain nautical miles as guidelines yan kung hanggang saan ang exclusive economic zone, hanggang saan ang baseline, mga ganon. So ganon din dito sa kabila, from the pinakamababaw na water palabas, ilang nautical miles, 3 nautical miles, 12 nautical miles, 6 nautical miles, depende. So ganyan ang pag-treat, no, sa mga archipelago dati. But we have a problem here now. What if itong mga dito sa Visayas, paano ngayon ang measurement nito palabas? So from here outward, kunyari itong sa Negros, outward hanggang saan ang ilang nautical miles dyan, tapos sa Panay pa-outward papuntang Negros hanggang saan. What if may certain portion sa gitna ng Panay and Visayas na hindi naaabot dun sa nautical miles na sinasabi? Or for a clearer version, no, here, how about here in Palawan? Kunyari ang 12 nautical miles is just from this point up to this point. Then ito naman sa Mindanao, Sulu yata ito, Zamboanga, Sulu or Tawi-Tawi, yeah. So from here palabas, what if hanggang dito lang yung nautical miles na mini-measure natin? So what happens to the territory here, no? Kasi kung ganyan, ibig sabihin, kunyari yan, this is just an example, this is not that accurate. So ganyan, kunyari ito like that, and ito hanggang dyan lang. So what happens to the areas here, no? Dito paano yan? Ibig sabihin international waters na yan, hindi na part ng territory natin yan. Mahihirapan tayong mag-control, no, na may, kasi anybody, if for instance that is an international water, nobody owns that portion of the sea, anybody can go there, and it may be a threat to the Philippines. For example, papasok, dadala ang barko or submarine ng nuclear weapon, tapos since kunyari ang Japan nasa taas, para hindi na siya hindi na malayo, dito na lang siya sa mga open areas or open seas dyan in between the archipelago para pupunta siya doon sa taas. yung control natin sa borders or sa territory natin mahirap. So yan yung problema kung yung traditional way of treating an archipelago ang babasehan. That is why through the UNCLOS meron tayong archipelagic principle or the archipelagic doctrine. So, ano itong archipelagic doctrine? The archipelagic doctrine draws straight baseline joining the outermost, yung mga pinaka malayo or pinakagawas-gawas na nga mga points sa ato ang islands. And it could be like this. Now, from dito, ganito na siya, parang ganito na siya. Ibig sabihin, yung sa mga outermost areas ng archipelago, for example, pinakagawas, diri, no? Eto dito, diyan, yung pinaka outside, kanang mga tumoy-tumoy, dira. Okay. So, from the outermost, yung mga outermost na mga points na yan, i-join yan with an imaginary line. Kaya, ganyan na ang nangyari. Mura nag-trace ang Philippines like that. So, ibig sabihin, with the archipelagic doctrine, lahat ng mga nakapaloob dyan, ito, here, it is considered as one island, one unit. No, so wala na problema in terms of identifying the archipelagic waters, the territorial sea, which is 12 nautical miles, contiguous zone is 24 nautical miles. Diri na siya magbase sa imaginary line nga na. Unlike before na i-trace ni mo kada island, mahirap siya, no? Mas mahirap. So andyan din meron tayong juridical, continental shelf, may mga exclusive economic zone. So in that case, mas easier ang pag-identify ng archipelago, no? By definition of the archipelagic doctrine. So itong buong island na ito, again, itong buong island na ito is considered as the national territory as enunciated in Article 1 of the Philippine Constitution. So, balik tayo sa taas. It consists of the Philippine Archipelago. Philippine Archipelago na na-identify na natin yung archipelago, no? Yung Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The all islands and waters embraced therein. Yan yung archipelagic doctrine nga tanan nga nakapaloob dito sa imaginary line based on using the archipelagic doctrine is considered as the territory of the Philippines. And another is all other territories over which the Philippines first, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Second, archipelagic doctrine. Third, all other territories over which the Philippines has sovereignty or jurisdiction. Ibig sabihin, all other areas not found in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao na kahit hindi mo siya makita sa Luzon, Visayas, or Mindanao, pero nag-exercise ang Philippines ng sovereignty or jurisdiction. Ibig sabihin, ang control over that property or over that location is within the authority of the Philippines. So, anong mga territories ito? Anong territories ang sinasabi dyan? These are Philippine airship or warship. Ibig sabihin, these are vessels or aircrafts registered under the Philippine Registry. Ito yung mga um, sasakyang pandigma, no, mga barkong pandigma owned by the Philippine government, hindi yung mga commercial, no, hindi yung commercial boats, commercial airlines, hindi yun. Yung mga owned ng government, owned ng Pilipinas, yun siya ang considered as an extension of the territories of the Philippines. Ibig sabihin, itong barkong ito, kunyari, yung Jose Rizal, di ba, that is barkong pandigma ng Pilipinas. So, ito siya, owned by the Philippines. Sa loob ng barkong ito, the Philippine law applies. Our Philippine Constitution applies. So, if the Philippine law states that bawal gumamit ng droga, pag nandyan ka sa loob ng barko na yan, ibig sabihin, bawal magdroga, no? Regardless of kung saan mo siya nakita, regardless kung saang lupalop ng mundo nakadock yung barko na yan, no? One classic example is, for example, this vessel pumunta ng Canada, nagdock sa ports ng Canada, and may mga Filipinos on board. In Canada, there are certain areas in Canada wherein nalilegalize nila yung paggamit ng marijuana, or nakalimutan ko ano yung tawag dun sa kanila, no? But legalized sa kanila yung paggamit ng marijuana. So, based on Canadian law, the use of marijuana is, for instance, based on Canadian law, the use of marijuana is allowed. It's not illegal. So, gagamit ka ngayon ng marijuana kasi nasa Canada ka naman, on board that ship, nakadock sa Canada. Are you liable? Are you liable under the Philippine laws? The answer is yes, because walang jurisdiction dyan ang Canada. Walang the authority on board that ship. The law on board that ship is the Philippine law. So, pag sinabi ng Pilipinas, bawal ang marijuana, and ng marijuana ka sa loob ng airship or warship, you are violating Philippine law. Different pag commercial siya, no? Commercial airlines or commercial ships, ang law na nag-a-apply sa loob ng ship is ang law kung saan mo siyang country nakita. Kunyari, ang Cebu Pacific, maglaland, maghahatid ng mga pasahero papuntang Japan. So, pag land yan sa Japan, pag open nung doors ng plane, ibig sabihin that the people there and the aircraft is under the Japanese government. Ibig sabihin, yung Japanese law applies outside and even inside the airplane, no? So, ganun ang difference pag commercial. So, yun yung isang example sa mga territories over which the Philippines has sovereignty. All other territories over which the Philippines has sovereignty or jurisdiction, these are extension to the property, to the jurisdiction of the Philippines. Another example are embassies, our Philippine embassies. Yan, that's an example of the Philippine Embassy, embahada ng Pilipinas. So, etong mga embassies natin, they are found in foreign countries. We have Philippine embassies in the United States, for example, no? So, yung four corners o ang compound ng embassy na yan, is a territory of the Philippines. It's an extension of the territory of the Philippines. Ibig sabihin, pag nasa loob ka ng compound ng embahada na yan, ibig sabihin nasa Pilipinas ka. No, nasa teritoryo ng Pilipinas. Nasa teritoryo ka ng Pilipinas. So, if gusto mo mag-travel around the world, mag-travel ka around the embassies in the Philippines. No, meron tayong Canadian Embassy dito. Pumunta kayo doon sa Manila. Sa Canadian Embassy at saka mag-check-in kayo sa Facebook. I am in traveling to Canada. Because technically you are in Canada when you are inside the Canadian Embassy. No? And if you are inside the US Embassy, technically by law, you are in the United States. No? Kasi that is an extension of the United States. That is an extension of the territory of the United States. Meron tayong embassy ng Indonesia sa Davao. So that is an extension of Indonesia. Makikita mo sa Davao. So ganun din tayo, no? So sa loob ng embassy na yan, Philippine law applies. Pag sinabi ng Philippine law, bawal ang pinaparusahan ang mang-rape, magpatay based on our laws, yung law natin ang mag-a-apply. In terms of minority, age of minority, ang age of minority is based on the Philippine laws. So, one example that I always make use is yung I don't know if you were able to see the movie Taken 2, wherein si Liam Neeson, no, is nagka-car chase sila kasi ang kalaban nila yung parang mafia ng Turkish mafia. Tapos hinahabol sila, even the Turkish police hinahabol sila. Ang instruction niya lang sa daughter niya na nagda-drive is don't stop, basta mag-drive ka lang, follow mo lang itong, kasi parang in-encode niya sa GPS yung kung saan papunta ang embassy. So nag-drive sila papuntang American Embassy. So pagdating nila sa American Embassy, sinagasaan nila ang gate, papasok ng embassy, nasa loob na sila ng embassy, hindi na sila mahabol nung humahabol sa kanila because yung mga Turkish police, for example, wala na silang authority dyan sa loob ng embassy because wala silang power dyan. Hindi yan part ng jurisdiction, hindi siya teritoryo, hindi nila teritoryo because that is a territory of the Americans. Ganon din sa mga embahada natin na makikita sa ibang bansa. So that is an example of territory of the Philippines which cannot be found in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And also mentioned in the national territory are yung terrestrial is yung bodies of land, fluvial, bodies of water, ibig sabihin yung lahat ng nakapaloob doon. Balikan natin yung sa baba, archipelagic doctrine. Here, terrestrial. So sa loob ng teritoryong ito, lahat ng terrestrial domains, ibig sabihin bodies of land, yung lupa, part ng teritoryo ng Pilipinas yan. Fluvial, bodies of water, no, na makapaloob dyan, teritoryo ng Pilipinas yan. Aerial, ibig sabihin yung it extends pasaka, no, sa hantod sa langit, kanang ginagamit na aerial space ng ating mga eroplano, no, that is still part of the territory of the Philippines. That is why dili pwede nga basta-basta lang maka-fly over, no, nga makaagi ang mga eroplano sa taas, sa himpapawid, no, ng Pilipinas because that is our territory. If ever they would, they should ask permission from the government. Terrestrial, fluvial and aerial domain, including its terrestrial sea, ibig sabihin, including its territorial sea, the seabed katong sa, sa ilalom, no, sa tubig, the subsoil sa ilalom sa yuta, the insular shelves. Insular shelves are those bodies of water na naa sa inland, no, inland bodies of water, yung mga batis natin, mga rivers, mga lawa, ganun. And other submarine areas, the waters around, between, and connecting the islands of the archipelago, regardless kung gaano kalalim, no, form part of the internal waters of the Philippines. So that is our national territory. Again, we must identify the national territory to identify up to what extent, no, ang jurisdiction ng Pilipinas, and up to saan natin pwedeng ipatupad yung mga batas natin. So that is the importance of Article 1, the national territory. We will proceed with Article 2 on the next video.